There are moments in your life when Allah removes something. You were never strong enough to walk away from yourself. Not because you didn't love it, but because it was quietly destroying the parts of you Allah is trying to protect. Something in your life shifted recently. You felt it. The silence grew louder. The distance grew wider. The people you held on to with your whole heart began slipping through your fingers, as if Allah Himself was pulling them away. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't an accident. This was divine intervention, because what walked away was standing in front of a future that would have changed you in ways Allah never wrote for you. You're not here to be broken. You're here to be rebuilt. You're not here to lose. You're here to rise. You're not here to chase people. You're here to chase the destiny that's finally trying to reach you. And listen very carefully. What Allah removed was becoming a wall between you and the life He has written for your soul. A life with clarity, a life with peace, a life with dignity, a life with blessings that could never enter while you were holding on to what was harming you. If you stay with me till the end of this message, you will understand something that will change the way you see your entire past. You didn't lose anything. Allah removed what was blocking your eyes. Everything that left you was clearing the path for everything that is coming. This is not a story about loss. It's a story about Allah preparing your victory before you even know it's coming. Stay, because what you're about to understand will finally heal what broke you. Allah removed them because your future could not survive their presence. Sometimes Allah removes a person from your life so suddenly that your mind freezes trying to understand what happened. One day you felt connected. The next day you felt abandoned. One moment you were planning a future with them. The next moment you were questioning your own worth. Your heart broke so quickly that it felt like you didn't even get the chance to say goodbye to the version of you that existed before the pain arrived. But while you were drowning in questions, Allah was already preparing answers. Answers your heart could not yet understand. Answers your soul was not strong enough to receive. Answers that required time, distance, and healing before they could reach you. You looked at the person leaving and thought you were losing a blessing. But Allah looked at the same situation and saw you being saved. He saw your heart bending in ways it was not created to bend. He saw you trying to hold on to someone who had already spiritually drifted away. He saw you lowering your standards to keep peace with a heart that was never at peace with you. He saw you shrinking your voice, your needs, your dreams, your light, just to keep them close. And Allah said, my servant deserves better than this. Di lahu anna lahu allahu. You were trying to survive the connection while Allah was trying to save you from it. There were nights you cried yourself to sleep thinking you were losing someone special. But Allah saw how their presence was slowly killing your spirit. He saw how the wrong person was starting to control your emotions. He saw how your heart was being shaped by someone who didn't know how to treat it. You kept thinking, if I just try harder, if I just become better, if I just stay patient, maybe things will change. But Allah knew they would not, because the story was never written to end the way your heart imagined. Your loyalty made you blind to what Allah could see clearly. You were attached to potential. Allah was looking at reality. You were remembering the good moments. Allah was looking at the damage that would eventually come. You were convinced they were meant for you. Allah knew they were blocking what was truly meant for you. There were signs your heart noticed, but your hope ignored. There were moments your intuition whispered, but your attachment silenced. There were red flags that your soul caught, but your love kept forgiving. Allah saw the burden you carried. He saw the sadness behind your smile. He saw how much strength it took for you to pretend everything was fine when inside your heart was slowly breaking. So Allah did what you were too kind to do. He removed them, not to punish you, but to protect you, not to break you, but to rebuild you, not to leave you alone, but to give you back to yourself. He separated you from what was separating you from Him. You thought their presence completed you, but Allah knew it weakened you. You thought their love was your safe place, but Allah saw how unsafe your soul felt with them. You thought you needed them to feel whole, but Allah knew they were the reason you stopped feeling whole in the first place. There were days you begged Allah to keep them. But imagine this, if Allah answered that prayer and allowed them to stay, Your future would be trapped behind a door their hands were holding shut. Your purpose would stay hidden. Your strength would stay buried. Your heart would stay wounded. Your soul would stay small. You were thinking about the comfort you felt with them. Allah was thinking about the pain you would feel later. You were thinking about the attachment you built. Allah was thinking about the destiny they would destroy. You were thinking about the moment. Allah was thinking about your entire life. So He took them away without waiting for your permission, because your soul mattered more than your temporary attachment. You thought you were ready to love them forever, but Allah knew they were not ready to take responsibility for your heart. You thought they were part of your future. Allah knew they were only a lesson for your past. You thought losing them was a tragedy. Allah knew keeping them would be a bigger one. He removed them because your future could not survive their presence. You didn't see the harm. You didn't see the jealousy. You didn't see the emotional manipulation. You didn't see the disrespect building quietly. You didn't see how their heart shifted, even while their words stayed the same. But Allah did. He knew that if they stayed any longer, your self-worth would collapse. He knew that if they stayed any longer, your peace would fade. He knew that if they stayed any longer, you would drift so far from Him that coming back would take a storm. So Allah, in His mercy, removed the storm before it reached you. You call it loss. Allah calls it protection. You call it heartbreak. Allah calls it redirection. You call it the end. Allah calls it the beginning. You asked Allah to guide your life, so He guided it, just not in the way you expected, not in the way that felt easy, not in the way that matched your plans, but in the way that would save you in this world and save you in the next. You must understand something very important. Allah does not remove anyone from your life without replacing that space with something meant for your heart, your peace, your growth, your destiny. What was taken from you was taken with knowledge. What was ended with wisdom. What hurt you, so it could open your eyes, your mind and your soul to a truth you would have never learned otherwise. If Allah allowed that person to stay, your life would not move. Your heart would not heal. Your purpose would not awaken. Your future would not unfold. You would remain stuck in a cycle of almost half love, half effort, half commitment, half trust. Your soul would live incomplete while begging to be free. Allah loved you too much to let you settle for half of anything. There were things about them you could not see. There were things in their heart they hid well. There were intentions they spoke softly but lived differently. There were promises they made but never truly meant. You believed their words because your heart was honest. But Allah saw their actions when you weren't looking. He saw the conversations behind your back. He saw the thoughts they never revealed. He saw the shifts in their soul that your love blinded you from noticing. And so He removed them before your heart broke beyond repair. You kept telling yourself, they care. Allah knew they didn't. You kept telling yourself, they'll change. Allah knew they wouldn't. You kept telling yourself, they're trying. Allah knew the effort was only temporary. You kept telling yourself, they're mine. But Allah knew they were never written for you. If they were written for you, nothing could take them away. But if they were not written for you, nothing could make them stay. So Allah stepped into your life. The moment your soul grew silent, under the weight of pretending everything was okay, He stepped in. When you were too tired to fight for what was draining you, He stepped in. When your heart was begging for peace, while your mind was begging for clarity, He stepped in. Not when you were strong, but when you were weak. Because Allah removes when you don't have the strength to release. He saw how much you gave even when you received nothing. He saw how deeply you forgave even when they didn't apologize. He saw how loyal you remained even when they were careless with your soul. And Allah said, this heart needs protection. So He pulled you away from the person you kept running toward. He closed the door. You kept trying to force open. He erased the path you kept trying to walk. Even when every sign told you to turn back, He knew your future heart would thank Him for the pain your present heart could not understand. You cried thinking something precious slipped away. But Allah saved you from something painful that had not yet reached you. If you knew what Allah knows, you would fall into sujood and thank Him for the tears you cried that night. Because those tears didn't come from being abandoned. They came from being redirected. They came from being guided. They came from Allah saying, Mi bilao sa vent I took them away. Before they took pieces of you, you would never get back. You think you were left behind, but in truth, you were lifted forward. You think you were rejected, but in truth, you were protected. You think you were forgotten, but in truth, you were chosen. Allah chose to save you before you even knew you needed saving. He chose to protect you before you saw the danger. He chose to separate you before they broke something inside you that would take years to repair. You may not feel it now, but there will come a day when your heart looks back, not with pain, but with clarity. You will say, Ya Allah, you knew what I did not know. You saw what I could not see. You protected me when I did not know I was in danger. You gave me peace by removing what was blocking it, and your heart will sigh with relief and gratitude for a door that closed, even though it hurt. Because the truth is, the most painful endings often save you from the most painful futures. You weren't losing love. You were losing a distraction. You weren't losing your destiny. You were losing what was blocking your destiny. You weren't losing a soulmate. You were losing a lesson. Allah doesn't take away without giving more. He doesn't close a chapter without preparing a better one. He doesn't remove what you want unless it is standing in the way of what you need. And what Allah has written for you is worth the heartbreak it takes to receive it. What left you was too small for the life Allah is preparing. There comes a time in your life when everything around you begins to feel unfamiliar. Places you once loved feel heavy. People you once trusted feel distant. And dreams you once cherished begin to feel too small for the heart inside your chest. This is not confusion. This is transformation. And transformation is rarely gentle. What left your life did not leave because you were unworthy. It left because your soul has outgrown what your heart was still trying to hold on to. There are moments when Allah prepares a life for you that is much bigger than the one you are trying to live. And to step into that life, He must first remove everything that limits your growth, shrinks your identity, or slows your destiny. You were becoming someone new, but life around you remained old. And Allah knew that the version of you that is rising cannot survive inside the life that was designed for the person you used to be. You were praying for strength, but surrounded by people who made you feel weak. You were praying for peace, but giving space to hearts that carried storms. You were praying for clarity, but living in environments that blurred your vision. And Allah said, my beloved servant, I will remove what you don't have the courage to release. So He began taking things away, not to empty your life, but to create space for something far greater. You didn't understand it. It felt unfair, confusing, and painful. Because what walked away was something you once loved, cared for, believed in, or dreamed about. But Allah was not taking from you. He was taking you to a higher place. And not everyone is meant to follow you to the heights He is preparing. Some people were anchors in a season where you needed wings. Some relationships were cages when you needed doors. Some environments were ceilings when Allah wanted to open the sky. You were shrinking yourself to fit inside spaces that were never built for your soul. You were dimming your light so others would not feel insecure. You were lowering your standards to make someone else comfortable. You were carrying people who were never meant to be carried. And Allah said, this is not the life I wrote for you. So He started removing what was too small for the future. He is preparing. You thought something was being taken away, but Allah was lifting you out of what was beneath your worth. You held on to things because they felt familiar, but Allah removed them because they were limiting you. You kept trying to make memories in places that had no future. You kept trying to fix people who were not ready to heal. You kept trying to revive connections that Allah had already ended, and He gently closed those doors one by one because He knew you would never close them yourself. He knew your heart is soft. He knew your loyalty is deep. He knew your compassion is strong. He knew you would keep staying, keep trying, keep forgiving, keep hoping, even when it was hurting your soul. So Allah, in His mercy, removed what you were too loyal to walk away from. What left you was not part of the life He is preparing. What drained you was not part of the destiny He designed. What confused you was not part of the clarity He promised. What disappointed you was not part of the peace He wants to give you. Sometimes you ask Allah, why did you take this away from me? But if you could see what Allah sees, if you could see the conversations spoken behind your back, if you could see the hearts that were drifting away, if you could see the intentions that were never pure, if you could see the direction their soul was heading, you would fall into sujood and thank Him for saving you from what you were begging Him to keep. You didn't lose anything. You were released from what was holding you down. You didn't get rejected. You got redirected. You didn't get abandoned. You got elevated. You didn't get replaced. You got protected. You were praying for growth. So Allah removed what was preventing it. You were praying for a better life. So Allah removed what made your life heavy. You were praying for a brighter future. So Allah removed the shadows that dimmed your path. What left was too small for where you are going. Your soul is waking up. Your heart is rising. Your destiny is expanding. And the version of you that Allah is shaping cannot fit inside the small life you once tried to settle for. This is why certain friendships ended. This is why certain relationships faded. This is why certain doors closed. This is why certain people walked away. Not because you failed, but because you are growing. Not because the story is over, but because a better one is beginning. Not because Allah took something, but because He is preparing something that requires more space than your old life could offer. You are not being emptied, you are being upgraded. And what left your life, left because it could not grow with the person Allah is turning you into. This removal is not the end. It is the beginning of who you are becoming. There are seasons in life when Allah begins to shift the energy around you, and suddenly everything that once felt familiar starts slipping away. People you thought would stay forever begin to distance themselves. Places you thought were permanent begin to feel temporary. Dreams you once held tightly begin to loosen in your hands. You feel confused, lost, and unsure of yourself because nothing feels the same anymore. You keep asking, what happened to me? Why does everything feel different? But the truth is, nothing happened to you. You are simply growing into a life that is too big for what you left behind. And growth is always uncomfortable. What left your life was only too small, because Allah is expanding your world in ways your heart has not yet learned how to understand. You prayed for a better life. You prayed for a stronger version of yourself. You prayed for peace, success, clarity, purpose. But you expected Allah to give you all of this while leaving everything around you the same. That is not how divine transformation works. For Allah to bring something new into your life, He must clear out what is old. For Allah to elevate you, He must remove what cannot rise with you. For Allah to expand your destiny, He must remove everything that restricts your wings. And the things that left were the first signs that a bigger destiny is unfolding. You don't lose what is meant for you. You only lose what is too small for you. You only lose what cannot follow you into the future Allah is building. There were people around you who were comfortable with the version of you that was unsure, insecure, and dependent. But as soon as you started becoming more aware, more confident, more connected to Allah, they no longer knew how to handle you. So they left, not because you changed wrongly, but because you changed correctly. Your soul was growing and they were not willing to grow with you. Your spirit was rising and they were afraid of heights. Your heart was healing and they preferred you broken. Some people leave when they realize they cannot benefit from the healed version of you. Some people leave because your growth exposes their stagnation. Some people leave because your light makes them confront the darkness they avoid addressing, and Allah removes them before their insecurity begins to sabotage your destiny. Allah loves you too much to let you stay surrounded by people who only love the weaker version of you. So He removed them not to make you lonely, but to make you ready for the kind of company your next chapter requires. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. You are not falling apart. You are shedding what no longer fits. You are not losing your way. You are being guided to a better one. The life you once lived cannot carry the blessings that are coming. That's why friendships ended. That's why relationships faded. That's why opportunities fell through. That's why people you loved began behaving differently. It wasn't betrayal. It was divine alignment. It wasn't random. It was purposeful. It wasn't a mistake. It was management, Allah's management of your destiny. He removed those who were too small to handle the blessings that are coming to you. He removed those whose hearts were too shallow to love you the way He planned for you to be loved. He removed those whose intentions would poison the success He is preparing to give you. He removed those whose presence would become a burden instead of a blessing. Some people only belong to the early chapters of your story. They were sent to teach you, not to stay with you. They were meant to shape you, not to grow with you. Life is not meant to be lived. With everyone you meet, some are lessons, some are mirrors, some are warnings, some are tests, some are reminders, some are temporary gifts that Allah places in your life to prepare you for something greater. What left you, left because its purpose was complete. It taught you what you needed to know. It shaped a part of your character. It gave you a memory, a lesson, a piece of wisdom that will help you later when Allah brings you something better. What left did not leave randomly. It left because it could not grow with you. There were friends who would have held you back if they stayed. There were relationships that would have broken your spirit. If they continued, there were environments that would have limited your dreams if you remained in them. Allah removed them because your destiny is bigger than the life you were trying to settle for. What left was too small for you because Allah is preparing something that matches your worth, your growth, your destiny, and your dua. He is preparing a life for you that reflects the strength He is building inside you. A life with healthier people, cleaner energy, stronger faith, deeper peace, and more meaningful connections. You are not losing, you are transitioning. You are not failing, you are unfolding. You are not walking away from a life, you are walking toward the life Allah always meant for you. And everything that left was simply too small to fit inside the greatness that is coming. Allah lets your heart break when He's rebuilding you from the inside. There are moments in life when your heart breaks so quietly that even the people closest to you don't notice your tears. You smile through your days, you speak as if everything is normal, but there is a silent heaviness inside you that only Allah truly understands. You don't tell anyone because you don't want to burden them. You don't express how deep the pain is because you can barely understand it yourself. Your chest tightens at night, your mind refuses to rest, and your soul feels like it's carrying a weight that grows heavier each day. And you keep asking Allah, why does it hurt so much? Why did this have to happen? Why am I feeling this way when I tried so hard to be sincere? But what you don't realize is this. Sometimes Allah allows your heart to break, not because He wants to break you, but because He is rebuilding you from the inside. Your heart cannot stay the same when Allah wants your life to change. Your heart cannot remain attached to things that are blocking your purpose. Your heart cannot cling to people who are damaging your soul. Your heart cannot hold dreams that will harm your future. So Allah, in His mercy, allows what is fragile inside you to crack open so He can remove what doesn't belong and pour in what you truly need. You saw heartbreak as a punishment. Allah saw it as a purification. You saw loss as a tragedy. Allah saw it as a transformation. You saw the pain as unfair. Allah saw the pain as necessary for the person you are becoming. When Allah wants to elevate you, He begins deep within your heart, the place no human can touch, the place only He has access to, the place where your faith grows, your intentions form, and your destiny is shaped. Your heart breaks because Allah is clearing space for something your soul has been praying for, even if your mind has not caught up yet. There were attachments inside you that were slowly draining your spirit. There were expectations that were quietly suffocating your peace. There were hopes that were pulling you away from Allah more than they were pulling you closer. You didn't see it, but Allah saw it so clearly. He saw how certain people were shaping you into someone you were not meant to be. He saw how you were lowering your worth just to be chosen by someone who was never written for you. He saw how your loyalty was becoming heavier than your happiness. He saw how your silence was hiding wounds that were never healing. You kept holding on to avoid hurting others. Allah allowed your heart to break, to stop you from hurting yourself. The moment your heart shattered was the moment Allah said, "My beloved servant, you cannot carry this anymore." He broke your heart to break the illusions you built. He broke your heart to break the dependence you formed. He broke your heart to break the path that would have broken you even more later. There are some heartbreaks that don't destroy you, they save you. You may not have understood it then, but there were roads you were walking that would have led you into darkness. There were people you trusted who would have betrayed you deeper than you could survive. There were emotions you tolerated that were poisoning your self-worth. There were relationships you begged for that Allah saved you from. So He allowed your heart to crack open just enough for the truth to enter, just enough for the blessings to reach you, just enough for the pain to wake you up from attachments that were never yours to hold. And while you were breaking on the outside, your soul was being rewritten on the inside. Allah was removing old wounds, old fears, old illusions, all dependencies, and making room for strength, clarity, and peace that you have never experienced before. Pain is not always a sign that something has gone wrong. Sometimes pain is a sign that something is going right. When your heart breaks, your prayers change. Your dua becomes deeper. Your ego becomes quieter. Your faith becomes stronger. Your soul becomes softer. Your dependence on Allah becomes real. Pain shapes you into someone who sees life differently, someone who values what truly matters, someone who learns to let go of what was draining their spirit. And Allah does not let any tear fall without purpose. Every tear cleans something. Every tear teaches something. Every tear brings you closer to the person you are meant to be. You thought your heartbreak was the end of your story, but Allah is telling you it is the beginning. It is the beginning of a new emotional strength. It is the beginning of a new spiritual depth. It is the beginning of a new connection with Allah. It is the beginning of a new version of you that your old life was too small to contain. Allah is rebuilding you for the blessings you have been praying for. Blessings your old heart was not ready to carry. Your heart needed to break to release what was holding you back. And the crack you feel inside is not emptiness. It is an opening. An opening for healing, an opening for clarity, an opening for growth, an opening for the destiny that is waiting for you. When your heart breaks, your world feels like it is falling apart, but what you don't see is that Allah is allowing old layers of your life to fall away so the real you can finally rise. The person before the heartbreak was soft, yes, but also burdened. They were hopeful, yes, but also attached to things that were quietly shrinking them. They were loving, yes, but loving in ways that exhausted their soul. And Allah loved you too much to let you continue living with a heavy heart that pretended to be okay while silently drowning. So He broke open what you were afraid to touch. He exposed the cracks you kept covering with busyness, with routine, with distractions, with people who drained you and connections that were never sincere. He let the pain come, not to destroy you, but to wake your heart to the reality you refused to see, to wake your soul to the strength you forgot you had, to wake your mind to the path that was leading you away from who you were meant to be. Sometimes pain is the alarm that saves your life. You kept loving with a heart that had no boundaries. You kept giving even when your hands were empty. You kept forgiving even when the wounds were new. You kept praying for people who never prayed for you. You kept breaking yourself to keep others whole. And Allah said, this must stop. This is not the life I want for you. This is not the love I want you to accept. This is not the spirit I want you to carry. So He let your heart break so your self-respect could be born. He let your heart break so your wisdom could grow. He let your heart break so you could finally see that your silence was not peace, your loyalty was not being valued, your patience was being taken advantage of. He allowed the heartbreak to return you to yourself, because sometimes you don't realize how far you have drifted from who you are until something shakes your entire soul. The heartbreak was that shaking. The heartbreak was that awakening. The heartbreak was that divine interruption that stopped you from giving pieces of yourself to people who never deserved them. Your tears were not signs of weakness. They were signs of release. They were signs of purification. They were signs that Allah was pulling you out of something your heart could not let go of on its own. Those tears softened your heart so Allah could enter. They humbled your soul so dua could rise from a deeper place. They cleansed your inner world so peace could finally live there. You cried because your heart felt empty. But Allah saw your heart finally becoming free. Free from illusions, free from expectations, free from emotional debts you kept paying without receiving anything, free from people who never honored your sincerity. Your heartbreak is not the end, it is the turning point. Because every heartbreak carries a message about who you are not, and who you are meant to become. You thought your heartbreak came to break you, but heartbreak actually comes to transform you. Allah is replacing your old emotional patterns with ones that protect your dignity. He is replacing your old hopes with ones that won't lead you into disappointment. He is replacing your old relationships with ones that will honor your soul. He is replacing your old dreams with dreams that align with your destiny. Your heartbreak made room for new people with honest intentions, room for new opportunities that match your worth, room for new clarity that guides your decisions, room for new strength that you never knew you had. Allah broke your heart so you could break your limits. Allah broke your heart so you could break free from the illusions that kept you trapped in pain. Allah broke your heart so you could break the chains that held you back from your own growth. You keep thinking, I should not have loved. But Allah says, no, you should have loved differently. I should not have trusted. But Allah says, no, you should have trusted me first. I should not have cared this much. But Allah says, no, you should have cared for the right hearts. You didn't fail by loving. You only failed by loving people who were not capable of carrying your heart. So Allah carried it for you. He took your heart into His own hands and said, you have suffered enough. Let me rewrite the story. And He will. But first, your heart must heal. And healing takes time. Time to feel the pain. Time to sit with the truth. Time to understand the lesson. You may feel broken now, but you are not broken beyond repair. Allah never breaks a heart unless He intends to rebuild it in a way that is stronger, cleaner, and closer to Him. He breaks to build. He breaks to protect. He breaks to redirect. He breaks to elevate. And soon you will look back at this heartbreak and realize something beautiful. The pain you thought would kill you actually saved you. The ending you thought ruined everything actually fixed everything. The heartbreak you thought shattered your soul actually opened it. Your heart didn't break, it opened so Allah could enter. When someone walks away, Allah opens a door you would never open yourself. There are moments in life when someone walks away so unexpectedly that it feels like the air around you disappears. You try to hold on to something that is slipping. You try to fix what is no longer alive, and you try to understand a chapter that Allah has already closed. You look at the door that's shut and you think your entire story ended there. But Allah is whispering, my servant, this door did not break your life. It saved your future. You keep staring at what walked away without realizing Allah is opening something far bigger behind you. Something you would never open on your own. Something you would never imagine wanting. Something your heart cannot even comprehend yet. Sometimes Allah removes people, not because they were always bad, but because your soul has outgrown the spaces they keep trying to pull you into. You prayed for strength, so Allah removed what weakened you. You prayed for clarity, so Allah removed what confused you. You prayed for peace, so Allah removed what disturbed your heart in ways you ignored. But because the removal hurt, you thought something went wrong. You saw a loss. Allah saw protection. You saw abandonment. Allah saw redirection. You saw an ending. Allah saw a beginning. You begged Allah for guidance, but you did not realize that guidance sometimes arrives in the form of someone leaving, a person you trusted, a person you loved, a person you prayed for, a person you could not imagine living without. But you don't know what Allah knows. You don't see what He sees. You don't hear the conversations He hears. You don't feel the change in intentions that only Allah can detect. You were looking at the outside. Allah was protecting your inside. Your heart was trying to hold on to someone whose soul was already drifting. You were trying to fix something that Allah no longer wanted in your story. You were trying to rewrite a chapter that Allah already ended for reasons your heart cannot see yet. If Allah allowed them to stay, you would mistake their presence for a blessing, when their presence was preventing your blessing. You would give everything to someone who only came to take lessons with them, not your destiny. You would keep watering a tree that had stopped growing long ago, draining yourself for something that could never become what you wished it to be. Allah knew the damage they would cause if they remained in your life. He knew the heartbreak they would bring later, a heartbreak far deeper than the one you are feeling now. Sometimes Allah removes people early so they cannot hurt you fully. He takes them away before their true intentions unfold. He takes them away before the betrayal becomes unbearable. He takes them away before their presence ruins your future. You don't see it yet, but one day you will look back and say with tears in your eyes, Ya Allah, you saved me. You will see how much peace came the moment they left. Even though in the beginning it felt like your whole world collapsed. Some doors do not close quietly. Some doors slam shut because your heart was too loyal to walk away gently. You kept telling yourself, maybe it will get better. Maybe they will change. Maybe this is just a phase. Maybe I should try harder. But Allah saw that your trying harder was slowly destroying you. So He did for you what you could not do for yourself. He pulled you out of the fire while you were still begging to stay warm. He separated you from someone you were willing to bleed for. He shut the door before you lost yourself trying to keep it open. It wasn't rejection. It was rescue. It wasn't punishment. It was mercy. It wasn't abandonment. It was Allah saying, my beloved servant, you asked me for peace. Let me remove what is stealing it. When someone leaves your life suddenly, don't rush to blame yourself. Don't rush to think you weren't enough. Don't rush to think it was your failure. Because sometimes Allah removes someone not because of who you are, but because of who they will become. He removes them before the shift in their heart breaks yours completely. He removes them before your innocence becomes bitterness. He removes them before your softness turns into hardness. He removes them before you lose the purity He placed inside you. You don't know how much Allah is protecting you behind the scenes of your heartbreak. He saw something you didn't. He heard something you didn't. He understood something you couldn't. He moved something you wouldn't. You were praying for a sign and their departure was the sign. You wanted a clear message and this was the message. You wanted a path and this was the path. You wanted clarity and Allah gave it to you, not through words but through removal. Some doors only open when other doors slam shut. Some chapters only begin when others end painfully. Some blessings only enter when certain people exit. And the door that Allah just closed was not a mistake. It was a necessary doorway to your next level, your next blessing, your next chapter, your next identity, your next connection with Him. It was the kind of door you would never close on your own. A door heavy with emotion, memories, hopes, and expectations. You would have stayed too long. You would have forgiven too much. You would have carried too many burdens that were never meant to be yours. So Allah closed it with one decisive moment, one painful shift, one unexpected ending. Not because He is cruel, but because you are beloved to Him and He doesn't want you to stay trapped in a room that would dim your soul and break your future. People leave when your soul outgrows the version of you that needed them. Every person who leaves your life does not leave because you lack something. Sometimes they leave because your soul is rising to a place they do not have the strength, courage, or sincerity to follow. There is a version of you that only exists in the past, a version that was softer in harmful ways, more patient with the wrong people, more forgiving of hurtful behavior, more accepting of less than you deserve. That older version of you attracted people who stayed because they benefited from your silence, your softness, your gentleness, your willingness to understand even what hurt you. But when your soul begins to grow, when Allah begins to wake you up inside, the people who were comfortable with the old you begin to pull away. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your growth exposes what they never intended to fix, what they never intended to change, and what they never intended to take responsibility for. You didn't lose them, you outgrew them. You outgrew the version of yourself that needed their validation. You outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated their neglect. You outgrew the version of yourself that stayed quiet to keep their comfort. You outgrew the version of yourself that lived small so they could feel big. Allah saw you standing in a cage you thought was a home. A cage decorated with familiar memories, familiar faces, familiar routines, but still a cage. So He allowed certain people to leave so the door could finally open. Because you cannot rise while holding the hands of those who are comfortable staying low. You cannot become the person Allah is shaping while staying attached to people who only knew how to love the weaker version of you. Your spirit was stretching, your vision was expanding, your heart was healing, your connection with Allah was strengthening, and they felt threatened, not by your success, but by your awakening. Not by your growth, but by the new standards your heart was developing. Not by your change, but by your refusal to settle for a love that was half-hearted and a loyalty that was conditional. Some people don't leave because they don't care about you. Some people leave because they can no longer control the new you, the you that sees clearly, the you that has boundaries, the you that is no longer emotionally available to broken versions of love. The old you tolerated small things, small apologies, small efforts, small love, small presence, small sincerity. But the new you, the rising you, the healing you, cannot survive on small things anymore. Because Allah is shaping a bigger heart inside you, a bigger dream, a bigger purpose. And the people who walked away would have held you hostage to smallness. They needed you to remain the insecure version of yourself to feel secure around you. They needed you to remain the forgiving version of yourself to avoid accountability. They needed you to remain the soft version of yourself so they could remain hard-hearted. They needed you to remain the loyal version of yourself so they could remain careless. But Allah said, "My servant, the old version of you has served its time. Now rise. Rise into clarity, rise into strength, rise into dignity, rise into self-respect, rise into the identity I wrote for you long before the world taught you to settle." And the moment your soul began to rise, the people connected to your old identity could no longer hold on. Some left quietly, some left painfully, some left suddenly, some left slowly, some left without explanation, some left with excuses. But they all left because their part in your story is complete. Do not confuse departure with betrayal. Sometimes departure is divine choreography. Allah rearranging your life in ways your mind cannot understand, but your soul needs. You begged Allah for a new direction. He began by removing old company. You begged Allah for growth. He began by removing what kept you small. You begged Allah for peace. He began by removing people who fed your anxiety. You begged Allah for true love. He began by removing the counterfeit ones. You begged Allah for clarity. He began by removing distractions. Every departure was an answer to a dua. You prayed during moments of pain, moments of sincerity, moments of quiet tears. You didn't even realize how Allah was rewriting your environment to match the version of you He is calling forth. People leave when their presence is no longer required. For your growth, people leave when their energy no longer aligns with your healing. People leave because the new you has no room for the wounds their presence kept open. Allah does not remove people to make your life empty. He removes people to make your life ready. Ready for the next level, ready for better company, ready for real love, ready for deeper peace, ready for bigger blessings, ready for the destiny that would suffocate in the presence of wrong people. Don't mourn what Allah has moved. Don't chase what Allah has released. Don't hold on to what Allah has cut away, because everything that left was tied to the version of you that is no longer here. You are becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone wiser, someone cleaner in heart, someone more alive in spirit, someone more connected to Allah than you have ever been. Let those who cannot understand this version of you walk away freely. You do not need their approval to become who Allah destined you to be. You only need Allah, and the people written for your future will naturally find their way to you. Those who left were necessary for your past, but dangerous for your future, and Allah in His mercy removed them, not to break you, but to protect the person you are becoming. Allah removes what you cannot see is hurting you. There are moments in your life when Allah removes something from your heart before He removes it from your hands. He makes you feel uneasy, restless, drained, or uncomfortable around something you once loved deeply. Not because you are changing randomly, but because your soul is finally beginning to see the truth your heart tried to ignore. When Allah wants to protect you, He doesn't always send a sign you can see. Sometimes He sends a feeling, a heaviness, a discomfort, a quiet whisper that says, this is hurting you more than you realize. But you, with your soft heart, with your loyalty, with your sincerity, you keep holding on. You keep trying to fix what is breaking you. You keep trying to heal what is hurting you. You keep trying to carry what Allah is trying to remove. You don't want to lose anyone. You don't want to let anything go. You believe that if you just love harder, try harder, endure longue, things will finally become peaceful. But Allah saw that the very thing you were holding on to was the very thing disturbing your peace. You prayed for a calm heart, but your heart was tied to things that created storms inside you. You prayed for guidance, but your hands were holding on to people who were pulling you away from your path. You prayed for clarity, but your eyes were focused on something Allah was trying to block, so Allah removed it. Not suddenly, but slowly. Not violently, but gently. Not to hurt you, but to save you. He removed what you could not see was draining your inner world. He removed the friends whose words poisoned your confidence. He removed the relationships that made you forget your worth. He removed the dreams that were actually distractions. He removed the habits that dimmed your connection with Him. He removed the opportunities that would have collapsed your energy. He removed the people who loved your presence but damaged your peace. You thought their absence meant loneliness. Allah knew their absence meant healing. You thought losing them meant failure. Allah knew losing them meant protection. You thought the door closing meant rejection. Allah knew the door closing meant redirection. He removed what you kept returning to, not because it was good for you, but because you were loyal to your own pain. You tried to convince yourself, I can handle this. But Allah said, why should you handle what breaks you? You tried to convince yourself it's not that bad. But Allah said, you deserve better. You tried to convince yourself this is love. But Allah said, love should not hurt your soul. You kept ignoring the signs because you didn't want to accept the truth. So Allah moved what you could not move. He removed the conversations that left you overthinking. He removed the people who only reached for you when they needed. He removed the places that drained your spirit. He removed the habits that distanced you from prayer. He removed the emotions that were ruining your peace. And yes, it hurt. It hurt to lose what you thought was good for you. It hurt to watch what you wanted slip away. It hurt to feel abandoned when you were actually being protected. But Allah knows your heart better than you do. He knows your weaknesses. He knows your blind spots. He knows the pain you hide. He knows what you pray about silently. He knows what you fear. He knows what you cling to, even when it is hurting you. And He knows that sometimes the only way to heal your heart is to remove what is breaking it. You thought they loved you, but Allah saw the part of their heart they never showed. You thought the friendship was pure, but Allah saw the hidden jealousy behind their silence. You thought the relationship was safe, but Allah saw the future heartbreak that would shatter you. You thought the opportunity was perfect, but Allah saw the stress that would crush your spirit. So He removed it before it destroyed you. Sometimes Allah removes things quietly, softly, slowly, giving your heart time to adapt, giving your soul time to understand. And sometimes Allah removes things suddenly, painfully, unexpectedly, so you don't stay stuck in what He is saving you from. The removal hurts because you were emotionally attached to what was spiritually harming you. You cry over what you lost, not realizing Allah is wiping away what He never wrote for you. You mourn the people who left, not realizing Allah is protecting you from the wounds they would have given you later. You question why it happened, not realizing Allah is preparing something so much better, that if you saw it now, you would drop everything you once begged Him to save. What Allah removes is never greater than what Allah will replace it with. You must trust this, because if Allah allowed you to keep what He removed, you would break. You would lose yourself. You would lose your peace. You would lose your connection with Him. You would lose the future that He has written so beautifully for you. When Allah removes something, He is telling you gently, my servant, this is not part of your destiny. And destiny is far too precious to be destroyed by something temporary. What left you, left because Allah stopped it. What was taken because Allah protected you. What ended because Allah began something else. What closed because Allah opened something better. You just cannot see it yet. But one day, your heart will look back with peace, with clarity, with gratitude, and you will realize Allah didn't remove anything except what was quietly harming you. And everything that remains will be everything your soul truly needs. Separation is sometimes the only way Allah saves you from yourself. There are people in your life whom you love so deeply, so sincerely, so completely, that even when they hurt you, you tell yourself, it's okay, I can handle it. You make excuses for their actions. You soften the sharp edges of their behavior. You convince your heart that maybe you misunderstood, maybe you're overthinking, maybe you should just let it go. You forgive their silence. You forgive their absence. You forgive their carelessness. You forgive things that Allah never wanted you to accept, not because you are weak, but because your heart is loyal. Not because you lack dignity, but because your love is sincere. Not because you enjoy pain, but because your soul refuses to give up on the people it once held close. But there comes a point when Allah sees you drowning quietly, silently, slowly, while the person you're holding onto does not even notice the water rising around you. And Allah says, my beloved servant, you will not walk away. So I must separate you myself. You think separation is a punishment, but separation is often the deepest form of protection. You think distance is rejection, but distance is often a rescue. You think losing them is a tragedy, but losing them is often a mercy. Sometimes Allah pulls people out of your life, not because they are evil, but because your love for them is killing parts of you that Allah wants to bring back to life. You were praying for peace, but they were the source of your restlessness. You were praying for clarity, but they were the source of your confusion. You were praying for healing, but they were the source of your wounds. And Allah watched you as you held your own heart together with trembling hands, trying to protect a bond that was already breaking you. So He separates you, not because He wants you alone, but because you were losing yourself in the process of trying to keep someone else. Allah saw the things you didn't see. He heard the conversations you didn't hear. He felt the shifts in their heart that your love blinded you from recognizing. You were loving them for who they once were. Allah was removing them for who they were becoming. If Allah allowed them to stay, your heart would continue to bend under a weight it was never created to carry. You would continue giving to someone who no longer valued your giving. You would continue trying for someone who stopped trying long ago. You would continue choosing someone who had already emotionally walked away. Allah saw the pain you were hiding. He saw the tears you cried into your pillow when the world was asleep. He saw the effort you made even when your heart was exhausted. He saw the emotional bruises you were covering with silence. And He said, no more, my servant. There are people you love so fiercely that you will justify their behavior even when it destroys your peace. You will explain their hurt to protect your heart's image of them. You will endure more than you should just to avoid losing them. Allah knows this. Allah sees this. Allah understands the loyalty of your heart. So He separates you because He knows you never will. He knows you will stay longer than you should. He knows you will forgive more than you can handle. He knows you will sacrifice parts of yourself to save the connection. He knows you will choose them over your own well-being again and again. So He steps in. He creates distance. He removes communication. He breaks the bond gently, slowly, layer by layer, so your heart can breathe again. At first, it feels cruel. You look at the emptiness around you and wonder, why would Allah take them away from me when I loved them so much? But then time passes, your mind clears, your soul steadies, your heart begins to heal, and you realize something profound. You were losing yourself while trying to love them. You were losing your softness while trying to tolerate the pain. You were losing your dignity while trying to keep the peace. You were losing your relationship with Allah while trying to keep the relationship with them. And Allah saved you from a future you could not see. He saved you from heartbreaks that would have shattered you. He saved you from betrayals that would have destroyed you. He saved you from disappointment that would have crushed your spirit. Separation is painful, but sometimes the pain is the cure. Allah separates you to return you to yourself, to return you to your purpose, to return you to your inner peace, to return you to a life that won't suffocate your spirit. There were signs that the connection was fading. There were moments you felt their absence even while they stood beside you. There were days you felt alone in their presence. There were words that stopped coming. There were actions that stopped matching. There was love that stopped feeling like love. And Allah allowed you to feel that shift so you would not cling to something He was trying to remove. You think separation is the worst thing that could have happened. But one day you will look back and whisper to yourself, it wasn't the separation that hurt me. It was how long I stayed after Allah showed me the signs. Because Allah always shows signs. He shows them gently. He shows them softly. He shows them through your own intuition, through the uneasiness in your heart, through the heaviness in your mind, through the lack of peace in your soul. But we ignore signs because we don't want to lose anything, even when that something is the thing hurting us. So Allah separates us for our own survival, not physical survival, but emotional and spiritual survival. Because some connections are spiritually dangerous. Some people are emotionally draining. Some relationships are soul numbing. Some bonds are chains disguised as love. And Allah wants your soul free. Es separates you, not to break you, but to bring you back to a state where your heart can breathe, your mind can rest, and your soul can rise again. Some separations feel like heartbreak, but they are actually heart protection. Some losses feel like emptiness, but they are actually space for the blessings you've been praying for. Some endings feel cruel, but they are actually Allah removing what was slowly killing your spirit. You think the pain is a punishment, but the pain is part of the cure. Because if the separation didn't hurt, you would run back to the very thing Allah is saving you from. Sometimes Allah allows you to feel the sharpness of goodbye, so you never again chase what was never meant to stay. You keep asking yourself, what did I do wrong? But the truth is, you didn't do anything wrong. Your only mistake was loving someone who did not know how to love you back. And Allah saw that. He saw how you kept pouring your heart into someone who could barely give you a drop in return. He saw how much of yourself you sacrificed just to keep the relationship alive. He saw how you blamed yourself for their lack of effort, their lack of attention, their lack of sincerity. He saw how you stayed loyal even when they were careless. He saw how you kept hoping even when their actions stayed the same. So Allah separated you before you lost the parts of yourself that He loves the most. Your kindness, your sincerity, your purity, your softness, your ability to trust, your ability to love deeply, your ability to forgive endlessly. He separated you to return these qualities to you, because the wrong person was breaking them one by one. You were losing your softness just to survive your relationship with them. You were losing your peace just to keep them close. You were losing your values trying to adapt to their inconsistencies. You were losing your joy trying to ignore your loneliness around them. So Allah separated you from the person who was slowly separating you from yourself. And the truth is, you deserve better. You deserve it consistency. You deserved effort. You deserved honesty. You deserve clarity. You deserved presence. You deserved sincerity. You deserved someone whose heart recognized your value without needing reminders. But you were trying to bloom in a soil that had already gone dry. Your love needed sunlight. Their heart provided shadows. Your soul needed water. Their presence provided drought. Your journey needed partnership. Their energy provided distance. Allah saw that if you continued, you would lose yourself in a relationship that was never built on truth. So He separated you to save you from the devastation you could not see coming. You mourn the separation now, but one day you will thank Allah for it. You will thank Him for removing the person who never saw your worth. You will thank Him for removing the person who was only loyal to your availability, not to your heart. You will thank Him for removing the person who would have ruined your future in ways you cannot imagine today. And on that day, the day you finally understand, you will whisper, Ya Allah, you saved me from heartbreak that would have destroyed me. You will realize that the separation you cried over was not the end of love. It was the end of pain. You will realize that the distance Allah placed between you and them was the space your soul needed to breathe again, to stand again, to rise again. Separation is not the end of your story. It is the chapter where Allah starts rewriting your destiny with gentleness, with wisdom, with care. Because sometimes Allah separates you not from someone bad, but from someone who is not good for the next version of you. They were part of your past, but they cannot be part of your future. They were part of your lesson, but they cannot be part of your destiny. They were part of your growth, but they cannot be part of your elevation. Allah separates you when your soul is ready for a life that the wrong person cannot enter. Es separates you when your heart is rising to a place the wrong person cannot breathe in. Es separates you when your mind is maturing to a level the wrong person cannot understand. Es separates you when your spirit is awakening to a truth the wrong person cannot handle. This separation is not rejection from them. It is selection from Allah. Selection for a better love. Selection for a healthier heart. Selection for a peaceful life. Selection for a purposeful future. You were not pulled away from something good. You were pulled away from something small. Your soul is too big for the stories they came with. Your heart is too deep for the love they were willing to offer. Your character is too sincere for the games they played. Your loyalty is too real for the effort they gave. Allah separates you because He knows you were settling for less than what He has written for you. And when Allah writes something, it is always better than anything you try to hold on to. This separation is not your downfall. It is your protection. It is your cleansing. It is your rising. It is your redirection. It is your moment of awakening. And when your heart heals, you will see clearly why Allah had to distance you from the very person you were willing to cross oceans for. You were trying to save the connection. Allah was trying to save you. What walked away cleared the path for what is meant to arrive. There comes a moment in your life when you stop chasing what walked away. Because deep inside, you begin to realize something powerful. Anything that faded, anything that ended, anything that collapsed, anything that slipped out of your hands was never carrying your destiny. If it was meant for you, Allah would not allow it to disappear. If it was written for you, it would have stayed through the storms. If it belonged to your soul, it would have held your hand tighter when life got difficult. But instead, it left. Not because you lacked love. Not because you weren't enough, not because you weren't worthy, not because you didn't try. It left because Allah wanted to introduce you to a future that this person could not survive beside you. There are people whose hearts only know how to love you. Until they realize your soul is growing, there are people who stay loyal only until your healing threatens their comfort. There are people who stay consistent only until your self-respect awakens. And Allah saw this shift long before you did. He saw how tightly you were holding on. He saw how sincerely you were praying. He saw how deeply you were trying. He saw how quietly you were hurting, and He whispered to your destiny, remove what blocks their eyes, because everything meant for you moves toward you, not away from you. Everything written for your soul finds you, not loses you. Everything destined by Allah comes with ease. It does not drown you in uncertainty every single day. You see, what walked away was not carrying your blessing, it was blocking it. Your heart kept bleeding for something that wasn't even written to walk with you into the next chapter of your life. That's why it felt so heavy. That's why your spirit felt tired. That's why you felt small in their presence. That's why your dreams kept shrinking. That's why your prayers felt trapped. That's why your peace kept disappearing. Allah was showing you signs long before the separation happened. A strange discomfort, a silent anxiety, a sudden shift, a loss of peace, a feeling you couldn't explain. Allah doesn't remove something without first warning your heart. But because you loved sincerely, you ignored the whispers. You downplayed the heaviness. You tried to fix what wasn't yours to fix. You tried to carry what had no space in your destiny. You tried to force a connection that Allah was trying to release you from. So Allah did for you what you could not do for yourself. He removed it, maybe swiftly, maybe painfully, maybe suddenly, maybe slowly, maybe through silence, maybe through distance, maybe through disappointment. But He removed it for reasons your heart has not fully understood yet. You think the loss is the lesson, but the real lesson is the future that is being protected by this loss. What left you would have weakened your soul right before your biggest rise. What left you would have drained your spirit right before your greatest blessing. What left you would have pulled you backward when Allah is preparing to push you forward. Their presence in your life was a ceiling. Their presence in your life was a limitation. Their presence in your life was a distraction. Their presence in your life was a spiritual blockage. You prayed for doors to open. Allah had to remove the person blocking the handle. You prayed for healing. Allah had to remove the person reopening the wound. You prayed for clarity. Allah had to remove the person fogging your vision. You prayed for peace. Allah had to remove the person disturbing your soul. You prayed for the right person. Allah had to remove the wrong one. And because your heart is soft, the removal hurt. It hurt deeply. It felt personal. It felt unfair. It felt heavy. It felt like something precious was taken from you. But not everything precious is good for you. Not everything familiar is healthy. Not everything beautiful is true. Not everything comfortable is written. Not everything you love is meant to stay. Allah removes the pain that you think is love, the person you think is forever, the bond you think is destiny, the presence you think you cannot live without, so He can show you a life where you finally remember yourself again. He removes so He can replace. He takes away so He can build something new. He closes doors so He can guide you to the ones you never had the courage to open. Ends stories so He can write ones that finally make sense. You may not see it yet, but the day will come when your heart will look back and whisper, Alhamdulillah, that door closed. Because what walked away was not your soulmate. It was your test. It was your lesson. It was your awakening. It was your turning point. It was the gentle removal that opened the path to what Allah truly wrote for you. Your destiny is too big for the hands that left you. Your soul is too deep for the hearts that could not stay. Your future is too sacred for the presence that walked away. Don't cry over what Allah removed. Cry only if Allah removes you from your connection with Him. Because everything else, every person, every story, every chapter is replaçable. But the plans Allah has written for you are not just replacements. They are upgrades. You lost nothing. You were being cleaned, prepared, protected, redirected, elevated. Everything that walked away was making space for everything written for your soul. And what is written for you does not walk away.